Good afternoon and welcome into Two-Man Game here on ClavesOnline.com. I'm Matthew Roccio. That is Bob Ramsey, and we're going to talk a little basketball on ClavesOnline.com. We're going to do a little bit of Billikens and NBA because there's just too much happening right now in the NBA, but it is Billikens game day. They're playing Rhode Island tonight, so we got to talk about that, Rammer, right off the bat. And before we get into it, as usual, Rammer, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing very well. Busy day, a lot going on, back and forth. Radio, podcasting, Billiken play-by-play. It's a fun time. Very busy.
There you go. And let's dive right into the Billikens and go to hit the time machine a little bit to talk about Friday night, the loss to VCU, 73-65. It was a really interesting game. Obviously, VCU pulls away late. But it was a fascinating game to me, and it was just the ups and downs of it. It felt like it was the ultimate example of one of the things we've talked about so often throughout this Billikens basketball season. And it led to, for me, a lot of interesting conversations with a lot of very passionate fans. And we love the fans' passion. That's why we're able to do what we're able to do, Rammer. But, at times we disagree with them. And so before we really get into the nitty-gritty of what happened, I want to just jump into what Travis Ford's thoughts were in the postgame. So I thought he had a very interesting postgame. And the clip I'm about to show you is part of Travis's answer when I asked him about if he chalks up the wild swings in the game to mental lulls on the player side, or if there's something that they're missing from the X's and O's side. And here's essentially what part of Travis's answer was.
We just have we've had a real issue with just really good play and really bad play, plain and simple. And we just talked about it to our team, and because I've given guys a lot of rope and given not just for playing time, but a lot of rope to, all right, go do your thing, and as much is given, much is expected. And it's just drastic highs and lows. And it's kind of hard to win that way because you don't know what to expect. My coaches hear me know all the time. If we kind of know what we're dealing with here, but we kind of wondering, some guys, what mentality is going to show up here. And that's on me. I got to either move on or people got to start producing on a more consistent basis. And as I told them in there, it's not about making shy. It's not about, all right, you can look up here and say, well, somebody went 1 for 6 and that's fine. If you're supposed to be a scorer, yeah, we need you to do that. But even if you're not, what else are you doing? What else? I mean, there's other things to be doing. And we were getting some of that. When we play well, we get that. We kind of lose ourselves in the game and just go play. And I think, we ran a couple teams here lately, went out to play to win. We went out kind of play to look good.
So what your immediate takeaway from Travis's comments from the postgame on Friday?
I think those things are clear and true. And you don't want, especially at the college level, I think it's wrong to pick out individual players and try and make scapegoats out of them. He would never do that. I try not to, but I think you can look at a given game or a given moment and say, player X, I wish he would have done this instead of that. That may have been a moment where instead of going for his shot, set up a teammate or move the ball, or instead of going under the screen, fight hard to get over it and prevent it. And but again, for Travis, you don't want to. You got to be careful because people can often misconstrue those things as pointing fingers or making scapegoats, and that's not what a coach should do. No. One thing you could talk about, not as a scapegoat, perhaps the best point guard in the country, clearly, without debate, the best assist guy in the country is Yuri Collins. But is it a reasonable question down the stretch when Ace Baldwin was doing it all on his own? Did Yuri try and match him? Could that be a reason why the ball seemed to not move as well as it did? Or could you say Uri did that because his teammates weren't moving to get to the open spots where they need to be? You break down the film. I'm always just kind of in the moment, but I think that's an interesting argument, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it gets, what we always talk about is process, being process oriented over results oriented. And I think when you get into the question, because I think a lot of people were, especially the fans, again, very passionate, were jumping to the conclusion of, this is bad coaching when they're playing bad. And, for me, it's always that tricky thing of, well, if you attribute bad coaching to this, and you attribute the good moments to good coaching or good play from the players. And so there's always kind of this sliding scale. And so for me, the question I get when I watch SLU and I watch the struggles from VCU and I look at the lulls against VCU, the majority of the time, are those lulls coming from a complete lack of ball movement, or is it coming from a lot of movement that isn't dangerous because it's not clever enough to get buckets against a college defense? Those are kind of the two things you have to ask. And personally, I think almost every time there was a big lull, not just a play here and there that didn't work, but a big lull at a long period of time, it was because the ball stopped. And I don't care if you're talking about Purdue or all of Bill Self's great teams at Kansas or the Roy Williams runs. Every basketball team, when they play bad, partially it's because they don't move the ball. Sometimes it's because they suck. But even bad teams have good moments when they move the ball. So it's my thing where people talk like, every time SLU gets a good run going, they can get a bad one where they don't move the ball. And they're like, that's Travis's fault. And I'm like, well, first of all, that's the issue every basketball team has when they play poorly. And again, I think that, to me, that's basketball. That's why their basketball is always going to be a game of runs. So it's just interesting to me, people immediately attributing those specific problems to the coaching staff, as opposed to maybe just the players on the floor making the classic problems that basketball players make across a 40 or 48-minute game, whether we're talking about college or the pros.
I would try and remind some folks, your team was playing for first place, not last place.
And I get why they're mad that they lost that.
What I get from a lot of those comments is that's just kind of lost on everybody. Playing for first place. Okay. Over the last decade plus, hey, yeah, I know you don't want it to be, but through 3 different coaches, 3 of them, VCU is a better program. Now, do we say that's okay and move on, or do we say we've got to strive to be better? I think all of us, including the staff, would say we've got to strive to be better than them. But the fact is, over a decade plus, probably, when was that year the Billikens played them in the CBI finals and under Coach Majerus and got swept in the 3-game series? Was it 2011? Anyway, whatever it was, starting then, but that was the spring before they came into the league the next fall. Starting then, VCU's been a better program. That's why the win over them in New York under Jim Cruz was so special. That's why it was such a spectacular win. They were heavily favored, and you beat the team that, as a program at that time and currently, it's a better program. You are what your record says you are. And so, but now here's where I think maybe we come together with some of the naysayers. Okay, what do we need to do to elevate and get past them? That's a great question, and that's a conversation to have, I think. You're in second place in the league. Yeah, you'd rather be in first. Okay. Let's go for it.
You've been a lot around college basketball in a lot of iterations for a very long time. And obviously the game has changed over a long time. What Is there a quick bullet points of how a program takes the jump in today's NCAA with NIL and everything, or has the trail to that kind of legitimate jump kind of been completely changed?
Well, I don't think we have enough data to really understand NIL, who's doing it great, who's doing it poorly. I mean, we get a feel in the moment. Oh, they're paying this guy $1 million. They're paying this, and you're scraping together 20,000 for a guy. All right, we kind of get that. But what are the ramifications are going to mean? What will that mean toward program building? And is that kind of throwing the money around? I'm not against it, by the way. Throwing that money around, is that sustainable relative to building a program? I don't know that we have enough data for that. But one of the things that seems to be true over the course of my 40 years is program continuity. That's really, really important. Not to win a couple of years in a row or 3 out of 5, but I'm talking, how can you be good for a decade? How can you be good for 20 years? Like Gonzaga, like Xavier. Those are the two that you look at and say, that's who we need to be like. To say, well, we need to be Kentucky or Duke, that's kooky talk. But can we strive to be, is it realistic to strive to be Xavier? I mean, to be Gonzaga, even if you were in the Sweet 16 every year, it'd still take you 20 more years to be like Gonzaga. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how do you build, though, to have continuity? Billikens over the last 30 years have been a top 100 team. Okay. How do you get to be a consistent top 50? You were for 3 or 4 years under Majerus and Cruz, but how do you sustain that over a decade, over decades, plural? Continuity is very important in that. If you go back and look, you'll see that that's very true. And so those are the things I think that's the first thing to answer your question. What's something you need to do? And so you got to have players. And then I think that circles back to your NIL question. Can your organization, including people technically outside the university boundaries, can you put that together to be competitive on that NIL financial basis? I think that's the next question.
Yeah, and going forward, my big thing, if you want to talk about Travis Ford as a coach, for me, it comes down to when this team is running their offense, are you seeing an offense that is good enough to beat VCU, that Fordham defense we already got to see come tournament time? And if it's not up to snuff and it's not good enough, that's a completely different conversation. But that's the one I'm interested in having, because that's, in my opinion, one that's actually beneficial and drives to the actual point and what we're talking about as a coach. And listen, you want to bring recruiting and those kind of things to me, it's a completely different conversation, one that I'm not nearly as versed in or frankly as interested in, because like you said, I'm watching what's happening on the court, and that for me is what I've been watching. And again, I've come away more impressed than I was last year with the job I think they're doing. I think we saw them adjust on the fly offensively at the very least 3 different times against VCU and spark new runs. The defensive stuff with Ace Baldwin was a little bit worrisome, but they've been a questionable defensive team the entire year. That's not new. Those are the kind of things I'm wondering about Travis Ford, if he's up to snuff and good enough for this team to be first in the A10. And so far, they're damn well right there. The question is, can they get to that next level? And so far, I'm leaning towards the X's and O's are good enough. But there's still a lot of time left.
I would tell you, and I mean this seriously, I'm not trying to elevate a stupid play-by-play guy's position, what it means to the program, except that part of the problem with the vitriol directed at Coach Ford, I think, is relative to expectation.
Yeah, that's
For
fair.
the team.
That's fair. No, you're 100% right.
Whose fault is that?
Yeah.
I was the one that was been on every media outlet in the Tri-County area saying this was going to be a great team.
Yeah, we did pump them up a lot.
I really thought they were.
Yeah.
It wasn't hype. Hype usually, as we use it in today, usually means it's overdone.
Yeah.
That not necessarily untruthful, but you're over pushing the things that could be good. I thought this was a 25-win team with a chance to make a deep run in the tournament. I really firmly believed that. Even after the Auburn loss, because I saw how close they were, it was free throws. You hit free throws, you win that game. I thought at Auburn, hostile environment, but then we saw things start to fritter away. But so if you're going to have vitriolic screeds, direct them at me, because I'm the one that gave you the high expectations.
And the responses are going to be a lot more comical.
Yes.
The responses are going to be a lot better. It's just there's going to be some truth to them. It's going to be, it's going to be a lot better. It's going to be a lot more interesting.
And if I want to save everybody time, I've been making my predictions on the team every year since I've been with SLU. And maybe even before that with Louisiana Tech a little bit. But I'm out of the prediction business. This team has let me know, you're not good at this. Stop doing it. So I'm stopping. Fair
enough. You see a message and you roll with it. I respect that a lot, Bob Ramsey. I respect that a lot. Let's dive into tonight's game against Rhode. It's their third straight game against a Ram mascot, and they're trying to avoid their third straight loss against a Ram mascot and an A-10 play. And it's going to be an interesting one because they come in with a pair of 6'2 guards, both from the D.C. area. We know one of them. We know both of them pretty well because Leggett's been there, but Brian Friedman is a transfer inside the A-10 from GW. So same guy, different jersey that you would have seen last year as well. They're scoring combined 30 points per game. Very similar stats. The big thing, and this is why I my initial just like jump right out of the gate, if you want to worry about Rhode's offense because they're a much better defensive team than they are offensive, but if you want to worry about the offense, for me, Leggett's the big one. His free throw rate's insane. He's crazy efficient. Anderson's a little bit more wild, a little bit more high usage, low efficiency, doesn't get to the free throw line as many times. So right out of the gate, Rammer, for me, it's a watch on number 10 for the Rhode Island Rams.
Well, Rick Majerus always used to say, while everybody loves the high flyers, it's spectacular. You win with guards. He would say it's a guard game. He convinced me. And so this is a team with great guards that always give you a chance. So they got great guards. You mentioned 30 points a game. So let's say you play even with them. Where can you get an edge? Your bigs and your rebounding. And I think
absolutely
this has been true every game. But in this game, I think you must dominate rebounding.
Yeah, and it lines up so absolutely perfect for you to do it. They've changed up their lineup a little bit. Right now they're running with the 6'11" Frenchman, Chiquille, I think is how you say it. And he's only averaging, despite playing like 23 minutes a game, he's only averaging 4 boards a game. And just beyond that, that's the biggest they can go. Beyond that, they're power forwards, usually around a 6'6" guy. So you have the height advantage in every respect. TJ Hargrove has better rebound numbers than Carey, and obviously Okoro and Forrester just have an experience and size advantage over their nominal center right now, you absolutely have to kill them in the paint in this game.
Yeah, you do. And obviously you got to make shots. And the other thing that just rings true almost
Martin.
every night, I'd like to see somebody like you really break down the numbers on the college game, but the volume free throw shooting, when you're at home, you've got to get those numbers. If your opposition and you're at home gets more volume at the free throw line, it's going to make it really hard for you to win.
That's the only offensive number that Rhode Island is above average.
That's why I brought it up.
That's the only one. And like I said, Leggett he's got a crazy, it's not like VCU levels of crazy. Their free throw rate. And again, I said it before the game, and it ended up popping in that game. Their free throw rate the entire season has been ridiculous. Rhodey's isn't that crazy. Leggett's isn't that insane, but it's up there. And so, yeah, they got to watch it because, the home numbers haven't gone great for them. And again, they have the size advantage. I Martin is the 6'6" power forward, not Carey. Carey's the 6'3" third guard they have out there. So Martin is the power forward that TJ should be able to dominate. And again, you win down low. You were able to maybe shut down one of their shooters. Again, I think Leggett's the one you focus on more. And then we see the shot numbers that we've seen in the majority of games. Obviously, we've had the big ones where we've questioned it. But the shot numbers we see, I think this should be a win for the Billikens. Again, though, we're talking about a good defensive team and that isn't great on offense. And seemingly the Billikens have played those teams games, and those teams have also shot a little bit better than usual. So more than anything, I need to see the Billikens dictate tempo and style in this game. You're in your home gym. You're the faster team. You're the more skilled offensive team. You can control the paint for one of the first times against these teams that play slow. You have to control the tempo and the pace and the style of this game from the get-go, and you can't lose out. You cannot let them dictate it at any point.
And I think it's a real challenge for Uri, who's been awesome defensively, and Gibson Jimerson, who's elevated his defensive game in the last month plus. And it'll be a challenge for those two in particular tonight, and obviously the help that comes with that. But I'll be looking forward to seeing if they execute on the defensive end, because I have expectations at the offensive end.
Absolutely. And before we go, Rambo, we got to do a little bit of NBA talk because it's too juicy right now. We talked about some potential trades on Thursday. We dropped that episode on Friday. And in between that, there was a Woj bomb from Adrian Wojnarowski who told us that Kyrie Irving had requested a trade. And in one of the few times we've really seen, they wrapped it up quick and they shipped him off to Texas to the Dallas Mavericks. First, I don't know if it's 100% been finalized. They were potentially talking about trying to loop in a third team to spread out the money a little bit. The original report was a 2029 first-round pick, Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie, and I believe there was another pick thrown there. But I'm not sure if they've 100%. That's what it is right now. So anyway, Kyrie Irving is now with Luka Doncic. Right off the bat, your thoughts. Does that pairing take them to the top of a muddled Western Conference?
Well, I think that to the very top remains to be seen. It certainly gives them an
it's pretty much. It's Nuggets, Gap, and then about four teams. So if you just jump up into a.
I've been watching Dallas a lot from the beginning because of Luka. They're basically a 500 team. So to go from being 500 to the top of the conference, that's quite a leap. So I'm going to say no, it doesn't. But can they get enough chemistry together to make a run in postseason and challenge the top there? I'm going to say no, but they'll be a hell of a lot more fun to watch, theoretically. I saw somebody on Twitter and said, showed a picture of them side by side. Who takes the shot when the chips are down? And I just said, whoever gets the ball, because they're not passing. My take on this is more social than actually on the floor. And that is, and I want to ask you, because you see a lot more games than I do. Is Kyrie Irving a bad player? Did did Brooklyn lose games because Kyrie's bad?
No.
No.
I think when Brooklyn lost games, Brooklyn lost only a lot of games at the beginning of the year, and that was before they were able to get their defense a little bit figured out, and then they kind of jacked the offense up in a couple of different ways. But I don't think they were ever bad because of Kyrie Irving, because I don't expect him to be a defensive stopper.
I think the questions about Kyrie come about because he's different. And I think it's grossly unfair. And his position doesn't typify the way the league wants to present itself. And the media is by and large is that way and on board with the league, and he becomes an easy target. I've seen it happen to other players in the league, and as I said, I think it's grossly unfair. Analyze a player based on how he plays. Now, if there's off-court stuff that causes a problem and a rift within a team that ends up manifesting itself on the court, okay, fair game. But if you got a guy saying stuff you don't like or acting in a way you don't like, I think that's bogus analysis.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to, and it's too simple to be like, well, are there two basketballs? Are there enough shots to go around? Yes, he just played with Kevin Durant. Yeah, like that's like they didn't have another like that. Luka and him, it's not that much difference. And you talk about usage rates and things like that. In fact, I bet you Katie and Luka's usage rate, I mean, Katie's is a little bit smaller. So maybe that's what people are. So it's marginal. I think it's funny that Kyrie's always been a little bit better off the dribble than he is as a catch and shoot shooter, which is an anomaly. His catch and shoot numbers have gotten better. They were legitimately worse than his off the dribble numbers. His first 6 years in the league, it's gotten better now. I think it's evened out a little bit, but nonetheless, he's not a guy who's just going to spot up in the corner and knock down shots for you. He can, he won't. But I mean, if you think if Jason Kidd can figure out how to use him in a similar way that Jacques Vaughn was able to, and listen, I'm not very high on how good Jason Kidd is as a head coach. But if we're going to talk about the ability to find a way to use a point guard or a ball handler, I'll defer to Jason Kidd on that one. The man was pretty freaking good. So I feel like there's enough offense, and I feel like Kyrie will fit in a lot of ways. The big problem, though, which is just like it was in Brooklyn for me, is you don't have a wing defender now with your top two players. Luka can't defend. Luka's a bad defender. There's no doubt about it. He's a lazy defender. He's a bad defender. He'll put his body into guys when he needs to because he's 6'7", but I don't think he's a good defender at all. And so you're gonna have defensive problems unless your back line can really toughen up. And I'm not that high on the back line. Christian Wood is a great player, but I don't think they've learned how to use him in Dallas to full effect yet. Dwight Powell isn't a sturdy defender in the paint. And so I'm just wondering how it's going to work defensively, but they're going to score an absolute crap ton of points. And it's going to be fun to watch because Luka is probably the best ball handler, taller than 6'6", and Kyrie's the best ball handler. And so it's going to be a lot of fun to watch if you like guys who can absolutely dribble people out of their ankles. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I don't think that makes them a championship squad, though. Bottom line.
So we agree.
Yeah, and the same thing with Brooklyn. I don't understand what that trade was for. I think it was try to convince Kevin not to immediately run and demand a trade himself. But the smart thing, if you're not Brooklyn, you're not owned by owners who are new to the game and want to make sure that their arena isn't empty. If you have long-term owners in a different city, you trade both of them, or you at least ship out Kyrie first for just a bunch of draft picks. But they essentially said, "Oh no, we can make this still work because we have Kevin Durant." You're not going to. I'm sorry, you're in the Eastern Conference. It's not 2009. That's the good conference now. That's the Bucks. That's that's the 76ers. That's Miami might make a run at this and get kind of good here. That's the Cavaliers back with a completely new core, and they're a good team. So, I mean, there's a lot of good teams in the East now. So I don't understand what they're doing other than trying at any way to just hang on to Kevin Durant being able to drag them, past the 50-win mark and maybe a first-round win. Because that's all.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and you're right. It's clearly not a quick fix for Brooklyn, and I don't figure how it's a long fix either.
Yeah, it's definitely not a long fix, and it's I'm not sure exactly what their plan is, but I mean they're hoping to hang on, and I can respect that to a point. Let's talk about something that's a lot more fun, and that's about what we might see tonight between the Los Angeles Lakers and I'm completely blanking on the team they're playing right now. I had it in front. I said it like 4 times today. The Thunder, who got creamed by the Warriors last night. The Lakers and the Thunder. LeBron James needs to score 36 points to potentially pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and become the all-time scorer in NBA history. Rammer, this is incredible. What?
Book it.
Yeah, book it. Okay, fair enough. This is incredible for me because I came to basketball right when LeBron James was hitting the NBA. And he wasn't the reason I started watching the NBA. Allen Iverson was actually the reason I started watching the NBA. But he very quickly became the only thing that I ever saw because of the way ESPN covered the NBA even back then. But I don't think I'll ever remember a basketball moment as well as I do when he caught the pass at about the half court mark and pulled up over the Detroit Pistons to win that game. When I saw that, I was thinking about this earlier. When I saw that, that was when basketball became a thing for me. And so to see it now 20 years later and watch him pass Kareem, it's absolutely incredible. And it's so funny that a guy who, in my opinion, I've never known as like a great scorer. In my, watching the NBA, Kobe Bryant, Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, Carmelo Anthony, these guys were the great scorers. I never thought about LeBron like that. And yet here he is. He's going to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the greatest scorer. Again, I think passing's always kind of been what I've loved about LeBron. And he's going to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as a scorer. And he's never going to pass John Stockton as a passer. But I'm loving. I can't wait to watch it. Whether it's on my phone tonight while I'm at the SLU game or not, I can't wait to watch it happen. It's going to be incredible. And again, it's just as somebody who this is in my entire basketball fandom has happened in this frame, and I've been so lucky to get introduced to the game by so many incredible players, and just to kind of take account of what I'm seeing in LeBron over the years. I've talked before very nerdily about how Tom Thibodeau's defense changed basketball, and that's why we're watching the game we're watching today. And a lot of people talk about Stephen Curry in that discussion, but I mean, Tom Thibodeau created that defense to stop one person. It was a help defense that let the Celtics, who I was very angry about at the time, were doing it, stop LeBron James. And I honestly think because of Tom Thibodeau changing a defense to stop LeBron James, I honestly think that's what began going smaller, therefore shooting more, and has created the game we have where it's unicorns all over the place, and you get guys like Giannis and Jokic. So I mean, he's created the basketball that I watch every day, and it's been incredible to watch.
The game's was going this way anyway, but maybe he is the flashpoint to say it's positionless basketball. You're 6'9", but you don't have to be a guard, or you don't have to be a center, although he's played center. And maybe he is that guy. Here's my fun one about it, because NBA fans are either hardcore Laker fans all over the country, or you root for another team and you want to beat the Lakers. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
The top 3 scorers in the history of the NBA all played for the Lakers.
Yes, they did. Actually, the top four.
Who's fourth?
Kobe Bryant.
And Kobe. The top four were all Lakers. So you either love it and wear your purple and gold, or it makes you hate them even more.
Do you? Yeah, it's fun that he's doing it in the Lakers jersey. I mean, it's obvious. I haven't really thought about the kind of how crazy it is that he actually is going to do it in a Laker jersey to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's insane. Man, I wish he was doing it against the Seattle Supersonics instead of the Oklahoma City Thunder. See, even a young guy like me can be a little nostalgic, Rammer, for something he never actually watched. I never watched a live Seattle Supersonics game in my life, which I hope changes one day when they make that team a freaking expansion franchise again, like they should. I
think we just made a left turn on the show. I'm
sorry.
not sure what road we're going down.
So Rammer's calling it. Rammer's calling LeBron James gets 36, and
tonight.
therefore passes Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He gets at least 38, 388. Rammer, I'm with you 100%. If he has to play all 48 minutes, LeBron James, I think, is going to pass it tonight. All the hoopla and everything. Wait, let me just double check one thing. They play it's back-to-back. Hold on a second. Who do they play tomorrow? It's not like the Knicks in Madison Square Garden, so they wouldn't.
While you're looking that up, let me give you another stat. Back to basketball. Yuri Collins, I think the number 6 to be the all-time assist leader in the Atlantic 10.
Yes, Carter Chapley at the Post-Dispatch has been tracking that like a fiend, and I think it's 5 or 6 is one of the two.
It's close. It's dual. Unless he has a
horrible
game against Rhode Island, which I don't expect. If he just has an average game, he'll have 10 assists and be the all-time assist leader in the Atlantic 10.
So the next Lakers game is the Bucks on Thursday. That's not a big enough team, even though, I mean, to break Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record in a Lakers jersey against the Milwaukee Bucks, I mean, I love how sports just works out sometimes. I'm just saying. I'm thinking maybe a nice, cool, like 29 tonight, and then we get it early before halftime against the Bucks, and now it's in a Lakers jersey against Kareem's first team. Yeah. That's, you know what, I'm going with he doesn't get it tonight, and we're talking about this on Thursday.
All right, he gets it tonight, and we'll bet a milkshake on that.
Absolutely. Rammer, we got to get out of here. I will talk to you later today as the Billikens are facing off against the Rhode Island Rams. Get your tickets and head on down to Shavit. It's going to be a fun one tonight. Remember, before we go, I want to tell everybody really quickly to check out Munganess St. Louis Acura. Get your car checked out there. They're always great about their stuff. I talked about last time how I got in my car and it said you might need an oil change. And literally that day when I got home, there was a ad in my mailbox that said you might need an oil change. I had an email from them that said you might need an oil change. They had it tacked absolutely to the day, and I like it too because like most places, it wasn't after 3,000 miles because you don't need to do it that often. It was the actual time you need to, because they're not trying to rip you off. They're just trying to take care of your car to the absolute best of its abilities for the best price available, and that's what they got out there. So again, even if you haven't gotten your car from Munganess St. Louis Acura, take your car to get service there, much like I do. Rammer, thank you so much for your time today. Again, I'll see you later. Everybody else, have a great rest of your day. This has been the Two-Man Game on Claves Online.
From our roots in St. Louis, Royal Banks of Missouri is branching out to continue serving you with our locations in St. Charles, Jerseyville, Granite City, and now in Hannibal, Center, and New London. Royal Banks of Missouri, the community bank in your community.